As a Christian, the flat earth begins and ends with Scripture. While the evidence continues to mount, and has, for the flat earth, I must begin by saying, the Scriptures told you so. Just like so many people have been deceived regarding evolution, the Big Bang, and heliocentrism, so too have many been duped into believing that we are on a spinning ball. The ramifications of these lies have wide-sweeping effects upon every sphere of life in society. I would like to begin with the most controversial verse in Isaiah. It is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain, and spreads them like a tent to dwell in is. 40 hours 22 minutes. I recall in my apologetic days, that when atheists would make fun of the Bible, they would constantly bring up this verse. The typical Christian response was to point out that the word circle here is, in fact, proving that the earth was a ball. I remembered even then thinking that didn't seem right to me. We all know what a circle is and it is not a ball. In fact, the Hebrew word used in this verse is kug, pronounced chug. The word literally means, circle, circuit, and compass. In all of these words, none of them conjure up a picture of a ball. Furthermore, if the earth were a ball, and God wished to communicate that here, then it would have required using the Hebrew word dr, pronounced dur. The Hebrew definition for dr is, a circle, pile, or ball. Isn't that interesting? If the shape of the earth was intended to be conveyed as a ball, then the Hebrew word dr would have been the word used. It wasn't. What we were given instead was the Hebrew word kug. As you can see above, the flat earth depictions are exactly that, a circle. Furthermore, notice that in the verse that man is dwelling in the earth. The Hebrew word here is yoshbin, literally means to sit down, and by implication means to dwell, to remain, and to settle. It would be quite difficult to sit down, remain, and settle upon a spinning ball, wouldn't it? Another interesting verse for me is when Jesus is taken up to a high mountain by Satan and shown the kingdoms of the world. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. Matthew 4:8. Notice that this mountain was very high. In the Greek here, the word for high is hypsilos and means literally high or lofty. Add to that the Greek word very, which is lion, and we now have a very intentional description of this. If the world is a ball, the higher one goes the less one would be seeing of the earth, because the curvature would constantly be falling and you would have to look further and further down. However, if the earth were flat, then the higher you go, the more you see, while the horizon stays at eye level. The horizon rises to the eye. It seems to me that Jesus was taken to very high mountain and could literally see all of the kingdoms of the world. Some may respond with objections to this interpretation, suggesting that this particular event is merely speaking symbolically. To that I would ask, what were the kingdoms a symbol of if not of real literal kingdoms? Was Satan a symbol as well? What about Jesus? Was he a symbol too? Obviously that sort of interpretation for this particular verse does not work at all. Another interesting example from Scripture is found in Joshua 10, where God caused the sun to stand still. And the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, until the nation took vengeance on their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Joshua? The sun stopped in the midst of heaven and did not hurry to set for about a whole day. Joshua 10:13. If the sun is the center of the universe and the earth is orbiting around it, then for this event to occur, it would have to have been the earth standing still, not the sun. However, if the earth is flat and the sun and moon rotate above us, it would make perfect sense for the sun to stand still in order to prolong the day here. It comes as a surprise to many, but astronomy as a science has long been associated with Christian scholarship and was strongly supported by the medieval church. Cathedrals were turned into solar observatories and many observations of astronomical events were catalogued. After the Reformation, enough data had been collected for scientists, many of whom were faithful Christians like Johannes Kepler, to conclude that the earth went around the sun. You read that right. It was the work of faithful scientists that led to the rejection of the old geocentric model of the universe. The belief that the universe was created by God is extremely important for these developments. The Bible describes God as omnipotent, omniscient, and never changing. If God created the universe, he would not create a universe that operated against his very nature. No, thought these early scientists, he would make the universe to act in ways that were consistent with his nature. The ultimate lawgiver would have created a universe that operated according to law. This thought was the spark that led to the discovery of the many scientific laws we know today. But we had to engage our minds to discover these things. As Kepler said of his work, it was like thinking God's thoughts after him.